I'd love for you to share how you came up or what was your journey into what is movement medicine, because it is really unique and has really touched my heart.
Well, thank you. It's an extremely simple proposal, and its simplicity is its power, which is basically we are we're natural movers. The body was designed. The
Mm,
human body was designed to move. It was not designed to even be sitting very much. It was designed to be active, on the move, hunting, dancing, being together, and intimacy. The body loves movement, and to when we separate from movement, when we live really up away from our roots and up in the mind, just thinking about what we're thinking about, and things become more and more virtual and further away from our feet and from our physicality. When we do that, the system is becoming sick, it's becoming unwell, and it's becoming heavy, it's becoming stagnant, it's becoming it, yeah, that those two words really do it, heavy and stagnant. And so the proposal is, within us there is the unbroken intelligence of life. And one of our
mm,
first teachers was an extraordinary woman, an American woman called Gabrielle Roth, who was the founder of a body of work called the Five Rhythms. We studied with her for 18 years, and she was very, very clear about um, that inside everybody there is a dancer. And I'm not talking, when I say dancer, when we talk about dancer, we're not talking about let me show you my moves. That's beautiful.
performing or mm,
Performing or doing, or tango or beautiful. These are beautiful practices, or ballet. These are art forms. They're magnificent, and they're also their movement. But what Gabrielle was so uh, radical about was that beyond that, or behind that, there is an expression that is longing to be let free, and that is the dancer in us. And that dancer is simply what we call the unbroken intelligence of life. Gabrielle would often say, look, put two bodies next to each other, one of them's alive, one of them's dead. What's the
mm.
difference? There's only one difference between them. One of them has stopped moving, the other one is still moving. Therefore, life is movement. So when we hand our intelligence, our mental intelligence and our emotional intelligence, back over to that part of us that knows, that remembers itself as unbroken movement of life, like the wind, like the fire, like the waters, like the turning earth. We are made from these things. So we give ourselves back to that original intelligence of life that is movement, and we let go. We let the beat move us, and we forget about doing a good dance, or what it looks like, or that awful curse of self-consciousness, like, oh my god, like so many men are terrified of dancing because they're afraid of being looking like fools. And this is so, it's such a sadness for me, how the women are anyway usually a few steps ahead of us, and um, this is just something we have to
It's
get
so
used to.
true.
Yes, it is. And
I'm very present to that
yeah,
because that is, I think, one of the big things that's been my journey into embracing movement. Because, like, I wasn't brought up with instruments and definitely not dance or definitely not movement in this way. And it's been incredibly freeing and liberating, but it hasn't been easy, let's say.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think in the container that you create and being
mm,
brought into it in the way that you do has
mm,
made it exponentially easier.
yeah.
Was it easy for you in the beginning, or what maybe advice or guidance do you have for guys that are in that self-judgment bubble, let's say?
Well, I can talk about this with some authority because I hated dance. I was not a dancer at all. I was like, oh, when the music, when I was in a social situation that demanded movement, like a wedding or, a nightclub or going out, it was just a nightmare. I felt so ill at ease with
Yeah.
myself in
Mm.
in movement. Not as sport. I was a sportsman. I loved running, and when there was a goal and a thing to do and I had a role, no problem. But dancing, like nobody's uh, telling me how or what. It's not a team sport, and just that, the self-consciousness. I remember the very first movement workshop I went into with Gabrielle. I walked into the room that was full mostly of women. I think there was one other guy there, this was the 1980s, so they were in these kind of printed leotards, like all doing their yoga stretches, and I was like, oh my God,
Oh
what
shit.
am I doing here? I've got to
Ah.
spend 3 days in this situation. And then I remember there was a Tony Childs song playing, and where she's singing about the power, and I was trying to hide in the corner, like, just like, how am I going to survive? And Gabrielle started talking, and this was a miracle to me, and
Mm.
that miracle really changed my life. She said, listen, just follow what I'm suggesting. Relax and follow. And within 10 minutes, your self consciousness will be far less interesting than what's actually happening.
Mm.
And she just led us in the way that I do and have done thousands and thousands of times in the last 35 years, um, just to shift the attention from thinking about to the experience of the body moving. Like, move your shoulders, let your shoulders be moved by rhythm. Who cares what it looks like? Just let them move. Let your elbows move, let your hands move. And just, there's no like, I'm not trying to do a good dance, I'm not trying to be creative, I'm not trying to be expressive. I'm just letting this body do what it was designed to do, which was move to rhythm. And then I'm giving it breath, and I'm fascinated. And within 10 minutes, I was I was completely astonished. It's like I discovered that there was movement inside me just waiting
Mm.
for my permission. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to create my good moves. I didn't have to impress anyone. I just had to trust the intelligence of my living body to move. And it did. And it did all kinds of stuff. Like Gabrielle said, like, okay, let your knees lead. And that
Mm.
when knees lead a dance, it's delightfully strange. It's not like any dance I ever saw before. But everyone else is doing it. So you stop caring about it. You're just interested in the creativity that is inherent to our physical beings. And it really doesn't take long to move from self consciousness to consciousness. And that consciousness is, it's there. It's only, all we have to do is shift the attention from where it's been locked in for many of us into this identity of self, which is locked in the head, in repeating stories that we're telling ourselves about who we are, who we should be, what we have to look like, how we have to act, what we have to say. This is very true of all the guys I know. We're all, locked into a, a nightmare of, well, the old story that we were supposed to follow has been criticized to death. So now what? We can't do. I tried in the 80s. I was very much into a particular brand of feminist ideology. Myself and my wife, we were in our 20s. It was the in thing. It was all about men have got to feel. That's a
Mm.
great thing. Of course we have. Of course we've got
Mm.
got to allow ourselves to feel, but we were doing it because the women were telling us that that's what we needed to do. And those of us who had that kind of yearning to be close to women would do pretty much anything to get close to the women we wanted to be close to. So, yeah, we went into that road, but we lost a lot of our natural, um, natural power, natural sense of self. And the dance gave that back to me really quickly. I could find the softness of my dance. That was beautiful. I could find the watery, like misty rain of my dance, but I could also find that kind of warrior yang, like just get on that rhythm and express yourself and feel that kind of power. It was so empowering. And one of the Gabrielle was ahead of her time in many ways. I just dropped this thing in. She was often saying, "Listen, I don't really care how you identify yourself, a man, a woman, or a they, or a this, or a that. What's interesting about every human being is the particular blend of yin and yang that is expressed through them, whatever that balance is." And that was in the 80s, she was saying that. And so we were all encouraged into the yin of the yin and the yang of the yang and the way they met together. And our work, movement medicine, is a kind of evolution of that. And it involves the embracing of our personal history. It involves the embracing of our ancestral stories, because my journey has been with indigenous shamans and medicine people around the world, has always been, look, what's behind you? Everything, no exception, everything. And my ancestors, some of them died in the Holocaust, in the Second World War. I've visited some of the worst kinds of cruelty that human beings are capable of doing to one another. And I was taught that everything that's at our backs is potential medicine. Everything. The worst tragedies. And I have come to understand and experience that as being true. Not as a theory, but in practice. That now what's behind me, what's at my back, strengthens my backbone. It's something to lean into. It's a call to stand up dignified in who I am. And so our work has that arc of time aspect, which is embrace the past, be in the present, create together a future that we can be proud to pass on to our children. This is movement medicine. It's contemporary ceremony. It's an answer to the ancient human need to let go, to be in ceremony together, to sing and dance, to touch into a power that's greater than us, without dogma, without needing to believe anything.